From the east, house of light, may wisdom dawn in us, so we may see all things in clarity. From the north, house of night, may wisdom ripen in us, so we may know all from within. From the west, house of transformation, may wisdom be transformed into right action, so we may do what must be done. From the south, house of the eternal sun, may right action reap the harvest, so we may enjoy the fruits of planetary being. From above, house of heaven, where star people and ancestors gather, may their blessings come to us now. From below, house of earth, may the heartbeat of her crystal core bless us with harmonies to end all war. From the galactic center, galactic source which is everywhere at once, may everything be known as the light of mutual love. Ayum Hunabku Evamaya Imaho. Ayum Hunabku Evamaya Imaho. Ayum Hunabku Evamaya Imaho. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. This is our Wednesday night of not soul purpose healing. No, we're in vegetable soup for women. This is our evening where we promote a book that I had the privilege, pleasure, the joy of participating in, writing a chapter to nourish the minds and hearts and bodies of women. So this book is available as a PDF or ebook for any amount when you send a cash app to $ Vieta Robinson. And this book was miraculously put together by 9 different authors, and I have 2 stories in this book. And we came together as a result of watching a very sad movie about the state of women in the world, from evictions to homelessness to losing children. All these stories will nourish you in a way that you'll be surprised, I believe. So thank you for joining me this evening. I hope you'll send in a Cash App donation, and you'll get the PDF of Vegetable Soup for Women right away once we receive your Cash App. So thank you for joining me on this very, very special night, February 18th. Boy, things are happening fast, fast, fast. And by now, most of you are probably aware that one of our elders transitioned into the elders and to the other realms of ancestors, and that is the Reverend Jesse Jackson. And whoa, what a day he chose to leave. You know, they say our souls choose the day they want to leave. And I think it's because it will have an impact, a greater impact on our loved ones we leave behind when we choose certain days. So Jesse Jackson chose the most interesting time of the day to say adios, folks. And this man suffered a lot in his last years on the planet. He had several diseases that caused him to be paralyzed. He couldn't walk. He was in a wheelchair. He was on lots of drugs, medication, all that. So, the end of his life, a lot of suffering, unfortunately. And we're going to talk about that and what it means to leave at a particular time. But first, for those who may not even know who Jesse Jackson was, there are some. My grandchildren, for one, I asked them yesterday morning, when he transitioned, if they knew who Jesse Jackson was. They know he didn't have a clue. But then they're 9 and 11 years old. So Grandma gave them a quick introduction. And there are still some even older than my grandchildren who don't have a clue, because Jesse Jackson was 84 years old, I believe. Yeah. And so makes sense that some generations may not have paid any attention to the history of civil rights. So I want to play a little summary of Jesse Jackson, who he was, remembering Jesse Jackson. So for those of you who may be clueless, here's what I think is a very good description of the man and the influence that he had on the nation, the United States of America.
Of a civil rights giant.
Our flag is red, white, and blue, but our nation is rainbow. Red, yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight.
Reverend Jesse Jackson was one of the most prominent politicians in the 80s and 90s, blazing the trail for generations to follow. All of his life, the Reverend Jesse Jackson preaching, exhorting, demanding justice, in quest to help his people and nation overcome.
We ain't the bottom, we the foundation.
Always marching, civil rights nonviolent soldier. There he was, shoulder to shoulder with Martin Luther King Jr. after witnessing the beatings of Bloody Sunday on television. Jackson eventually became one of the top lieutenants in the critical Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which challenged the Jim Crow South's withering oppression. A witness to history, he was there on that fateful April evening when King was struck down by an assassin's bullet.
I tried to feel his head, and I asked him, I said, Dr. King, do you hear me? Dr. King, do you hear me? And he didn't say anything.
After a leadership struggle with King's successor, Reverend Ralph Abernathy, Jackson split from the SCLC and formed a new organization, People United to Save Humanity, PUSH.
Black, beautiful.
After Dr. King, I don't think anyone captured the spirit of America like Reverend Jackson, and he took the movement north. I think Jesse Jackson was the link from that generation of King and them all the way to my generation, and then the generation behind me.
The first wave of the civil rights movement had succeeded in breaking down significant barriers, but Jackson's primary focus was on economic empowerment.
We know that we are worthy of respect and protection, but nobody really knows our name, and so we're really still struggling.
He broke boundaries in politics, twice running for president, first in 1984 under the banner of a Rainbow Coalition. In 1988, he was, for a time, the Democratic Party's frontrunner for the presidential nomination, before eventually losing the nomination to Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis.
I'd rather go down in the stirring fight than drowse to death at the sheltered shore.
Jackson also took on the role of freelance international negotiator, meeting with some of the world's most brutal tyrants.
Overseas, the American black activist Jesse Jackson has become an intermediary in the Middle East.
In 1984, he met with Syria's Hafez al-Assad.
Goodman and the Reverend Jackson arrived at Andrews Air Force Base,
securing the release of downed American naval officer, Lieutenant Robert Goodman. In 1990, he held talks with Saddam Hussein to free foreign nationals being held in Iraq as human shields. And in 1999, he went behind enemy lines again to meet with Slobodan Milosevic to negotiate the return of 3 American prisoners of war. At times, he was a spiritual advisor, counseling President Clinton in his darkest hour, facing impeachment over a sex scandal. But Jackson had his own moments where he fell far short of what he had championed. In the mid-1980s, facing controversy for allegedly making a highly offensive remark about the Jewish community.
God is not finished with me yet.
And as an ordained minister, having to admit in 2001, he had fathered a child after an affair with a former staffer. Although somewhat diminished, Jackson leaned in on his faith of forgiveness and redemption and kept fighting, keeping his eyes on the prize. He saw one of his hopes realized on election night in 2008 in Chicago's Grant Park.
America, I have never been more hopeful than I am tonight that we will get there.
He wept as President-elect Barack Obama delivered his victory speech. In recent years, the effects of age and a long illness had slowed his gait, but not his spirit. Jackson going public with his private health battle, dealing with a myriad of health issues. He was hospitalized in Chicago in mid-November and released a few weeks later. Through it all, Jackson's faith and hope in what America could be endured. Jackson's family saying he passed away peacefully in his sleep. He was 84 years old.
America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. I love you very much.
Wow. Wow. Just watching that is like so amazing that those 84 years passed so quickly. And I learned when I was doing some research on him that just a little side note on Jesse's life, his mother was impregnated by a 35-year-old married man whose name was Robinson. Robinsons again, they're just everywhere. And I thought, well, that's interesting. So he really was a Robinson, but because the man was married, and back then, that's the way things were happening. His stepfather, whose name was Jackson, actually raised him and gave him his name. So that's a little interesting thought for me, because my name's Robinson and his father was actually a Robinson. And there's a lot of news stories about his brother and the trouble his brother got in, who was a Robinson. Just a little side note. The most important thing for us to note right now is the day that Jesse Jackson's soul decided to leave his body. Whoa, 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 whoa. Around, let's say a ring of fire, because the day early in the morning was the beginning of the Chinese New Year. There are so many energies and wisdom around this day that he left, that we are called to pay attention, because of all the suffering that Jesse Jackson went through at the end of his life was kind of a sign of how his life was about not making a lot of changes in his life. I just went through an experience in a relationship with someone who refused to make changes in their life. And there was so much suffering, just so much suffering. So we're in a period right now of change with technology and the energy of the Chinese New Year. So I want to just give you a little summary of why this date that he left was so important and what we're called to do as a result of this day and all the things that are happening in the planets. He left on one of the most energetic planetary energies, Chinese New Year, not to mention the March of Peace ended on back in Fort Worth, Texas, and the monks were celebrating a successful March of Peace. And it just, to me, it represents what I have called this show a transition passing the torch from religion to mindfulness. As we just heard, Jesse was an ordained minister. He fought many battles, civil rights battles of ignorance and problems in our country that should have easily been overcome if it weren't for all the ignorance and race, what people call racism. But he was there at a time when we needed him. In all those years, fighting those battles, fighting those battles, fighting those battles. In fact, Vietnam War, I want to talk about that a little bit tonight because um, Jesse Jackson was also around when we had the Vietnam War, which many Black men perished from. And it kind of segues into what we're going to talk about, the mindfulness that we are moving into, more than religion, and continuing what Jesse has promoted and what his teachings were. His family spoke today about just keeping the hope alive, or keeping his message alive, but his message has changed. His message has to change. That message is for a different time period where we did have battles of quote ignorance. I don't think we have the same level of ignorance, although it's still there. But I want to just show you why that date is so important, that his soul chose to leave, and why it's a torch or a staff being transferred over to mindfulness now, where we're in a very high energy of change. So I'm going to share with you this video of my favorite sacred geometry teacher. This man, I always get emails from him inviting me to join his sacred geometry classes, and he teaches the most amazing facts about sacred geometry, what it means in our lives. It's everywhere. And he gives a very good, a very quick analysis of the Chinese New Year, of the fire horse on February 7th. Jesse Louise Jackson decided to leave the planet. It's like no coincidences. In fact, I think this is just a perfect example of what synchronicities look like, that teach us important lessons. This man is going to teach us a very important lesson for this day of the 17th of February, yesterday, and what it means for each of us moving forward to make some changes in our life. Here we go.
Ancient prophecies says that this year coming changes everything. So what we have in the year of the fire horse for 2026 is rapid and dynamic changes. So get on your horse, and we're going on a journey to claim our sovereignty, our power, our beauty, and recognition of where we're going in life. So in the Northern Hemisphere, it is the 17th of February, but because I'm here in the Southern Hemisphere in Australia, it's actually the 16th of February. But when the 16th of Feb comes soon, it's also going to be a solar eclipse. And an eclipse, as you know, means there's a little time of darkness. So this is quite a challenge to begin the year with a phase of darkness. But once the darkness passes, light begins. So this is a fire year, and it's a 60-year cycle. So every 12 years we've got the zodiac, but then every year has an element like fire, earth, air, metal, wood. So this is a 60-year cycle. So the last time it happened, a fire horse year, was 60 years ago in 1966. So what does fire represent? Fire is all about not just transformation, but major changes in your life. And the fire, to me, is best exemplified when we look at a matchstick. If we take a match and we light it, we notice that the flame always goes up. So that's the metaphorical meaning of fire, is raising to a higher frequency. So basically, I like to look at the fire horse as it's like you're viewing a tarot card, and whatever the chariot, whatever the horse means, it's like your vehicle, it's your chariot. But what I resonate to the horse is strength and power, and to claim your strength and power, just like that analogy of the matchstick, you need to delete people out of your life who no longer serve you, people who suck on your energy, people that drain you, people that no longer resonate to your frequency are weakening you. So part of the transformation that I'm talking about to get into your flow for the new year is to do that Buddhist thing where they talk about right association. Only surround yourself by people that enhance you and who honor you and who serve you, and let go. And it's a painful process. It's letting go of all that is less than the frequency of light and love. So this is all about freedom and light alignment. And in a sense, it's a return to truth, because you recognize you're ready to make changes in your life. You want to return to truth. And so what I've symbolized on this horse, there's many images of fire horse, but notice these two satchels, these two bags. It's like you're moving forward. You don't know exactly where you're going. You're making a major change in your life and you're carrying everything with you. So normally in Chinese wisdom, the two bags or the satchels represent your wealth and abundance. But what I've represented them as esoteric things. So KT is know thyself, and NIE is nothing in excess. So those two aphorisms were the wisdom of King Solomon's temple in ancient Judea. So know thyself, nothing in excess is really your material abundance, and it's a spiritual journey. And just to conclude, when I talk to some Chinese professors about what's the year of the fire horse, they always talk about this thing called Qian Lima. And Qian Lima is the fire horse that gallops for 1,000 miles. It was actually 1,000 li, and I found out that 1 li was like a quarter of a mile. So it's actually a horse that can gallop for 250 miles without stopping in a single day. And this was this is like a true story, and that's about 400 kilometers. So imagine the imagery of a horse that can have so much power, can run that much. So so what it represents is basically a talented person. And in some stories I've read that the fire horse is about the hero. It could be part of your hero's journey is to attain the next cycle. But there were some other meanings about the Qian Lima, is that the fire horse is talented. We know that, but what's more talented, and that is the Bo Li. The Bo Li was the judge of the horse. It was the judge who could recognize that this person was talented. And the final proverb about the fire horse is that the old war horse is in the stable, but the old war horse, the old man or woman, is still dreaming, still aspiring that they could run 1,000 li or 250 miles. So I just wanted to paint a little picture of the esoteric meaning of the fire horse, and that it's your year to make changes, to trust in the flow of life, and just to gather your inner strength and remain true to who you are.
Now that's the energy that Jesse Louis Jackson decided to leave on. If you believe, as I do, that your soul chooses what day they want to leave on. My partner for 5 years left on my grandmother's birthday, which got my full attention to the lessons that I learned from this man who was in my life for 5 years that helped me evolve and grow spiritually. Because the suffering in his life was sad for a while, but then I had to have compassion. I had to have compassion for him, even though he was unwilling or not ready to change to reduce or eliminate the suffering. I grew in compassion and patience, because I kept thinking, well, when is he going to leave? Because his suffering is just horrible. Why can't? And he left on my grandmother's birthday. Jesse Louis Jackson left on the Ring of Fire. This whole spiritual energy of the Chinese New Year and the walk for peace and all these messages coming to us about know thyself, know thyself. So what is Jesse Jackson telling us, leaving us with this message? In my opinion, he's reminding us, number one, of the suffering he just went through, because he couldn't change. He didn't change much from his belief systems of religion and Christianity and civil rights action and march, 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 and fight, fight, fight for what you believe in. So this Ring of Fire message and the eclipse and the Chinese New Year is reminding us to make changes. This is a time for major changes in our life, to drop the religion mindset that you need a savior, that you have to have a book to guide you, and move more into mindfulness. Now, some people would say, well, what does that have to do with me, especially if you have a Christian background belief? Well, the Vietnam War came to my mind. 70 years ago, 1955, this country, or actually the Vietnam started a war. And then in 1965, the United States got involved in that war. Now, think about this in terms of the culture of the people that we decided to fight for the communism and all the other reasons that men go to war. We want to help the Viet Cong, I think it was the South Vietnamese, keep communism out of their country. Way over there, we had to get involved. And so the patriarchal, war-minded, warmongers gave us a connection to Chinese culture. Okay, Vietnam, that's China and Thailand and all over there, that we were presented with recently with the March for Peace and the Buddhist monks. No accidents. If you believe in synchronicity, this is all synchronicity coming at us in big way, with Jesse Jackson leaving the planet, this dynamic civil rights leader who influenced thousands of people, and even internationally, he was over there negotiating, and then boom, he's leaving, and the monks show up. The culture of Vietnam shows up, basically, because the venerable Panikara monk who led the March for Peace for over 2,000 miles, talk about Chinese New Year and the horse riding to thousands of miles. The monks represented a new year for all of us. And the Vietnam War was a challenge for many people like never before, because many of our young men died over there. In fact, something like 53,000, we lost 53,000 men in the Vietnam War. And a lot of Black men planted seeds over there, if you know what I mean. There were so many orphans in Vietnam from American soldiers planting seeds over there, that some missionaries went over there trying to bring some of those poor Black or orphans from the seeds that were planted by our military men. They wanted to bring them back here. That's a whole nother story that you can look into if you just Google orphans from the Vietnam War. It's a fascinating read about what our men were doing over there. In fact, my love interest for 5 years was a Vietnam veteran, and he told me a situation that he was in while over in Vietnam, where he met a young Vietnamese girl, and boom, they connected right away with sex. Just put it out that with sex, they had a little thing standing up. In fact, he told me it was like release now, and for all he knows, he could have had a child born over there, but he never followed through on that because it was like a one-night stand type thing. How many Black men, white men, any kind, all the soldiers were intimate with Vietnamese women during the Vietnam War. We're talking from 1965 to 73. So almost at least almost 10 years. In fact, it was 10 years before the war was over. Our troops started going over in 1965, planting seeds. So now, when I was watching the March of Peace, I noticed these men are really dark. What is it with these Vietnamese monks? Many of them living in Thailand. And in fact, I asked Kwame a question this evening. I said, Kwame, did you plant any seeds while you were over in Vietnam? He said, well, not in Vietnam, but in Thailand, maybe. Okay. So the seeds were being spread all over. So these monks that showed up on the east coast of America since October and just past this month were very dark skinned. So we can look at that as relatives, cousins, distant cousins showed up from Vietnam to show us how to walk for peace. This was just so significant. That's why so many people were crying, because the truth around this March for Peace was so deep and so influential spiritually that we should all be paying attention to what this March for Peace really means on every level. And the fact that Jesse Jackson decided to leave as the monks returned to Fort Worth, Texas, and started celebrating a new year, Jesse said, I'm out of here, passing the torch to you beautiful monks, dark-skinned monks who have led the way for the last 2,000 miles on practicing mindfulness. No religion, just mindfulness. Why so important? Why is that so important? Because we've been so divided for so many years in this country that now the call is for peace and mindfulness. Religion has not really made a big difference in our society, brought more division, and it's really a sign for us to look at what can we do different? Can we change? As the Chinese New Year is teaching us, know thyself. How do you know yourself? Do you need to read more stories in the Bible to know yourself? I don't think so. I graduated from that, thank goodness, after almost over 50 years of Bible reading. My partner used to read the Bible daily on his knees, bent over, reading the Bible, praying, bent over for sometimes an hour or more. And he got worse and worse with his health eventually. Something was telling me that there's more to this life than reading a Bible. And there's nothing wrong with taking the metaphors, the symbolism, and the allegories out and learning from it. But at this point, with Jesse Jackson leaving the planet at 84, let's see, that's a 12, that's a three triangle. The spirit of the Most High is saying, time for a change. We got a complete sacred geometry with Jesse Jackson, completion of his assignment, a major assignment for Jesse Jackson has ended. Time for us to know thyself, as the Chinese New Year is teaching us. And that's my spirit information coming to me is know thyself, go within. And we're going to play a little bit of what the Buddhist monks came to do. Our Vietnamese brothers from the seeds that were planted over there. I'm telling you, those men were darker than me. So some seeds been planted over there for many years of melanin-rich souls who are now teaching us how to be mindful, meditate, and breath work. Let me just acknowledge some of you who are making comments first before I go to the Buddhists. Robert Young says, awesome. Thank you, Robert, for joining. Interesting. I'm glad you're finding this interesting because this is significant. I don't know how many of you thought about Jesse didn't just leave by accident on this date. Very spiritual time that he decided to leave. And I hope all those in Chicago who are just praising him today. I watched one of the morning Facebook shows. Jesse was just being honored and praised and lived all about Jesse's past. He did a lot in the past. And then he left. So it's now up to us to take the message and run with it like that horse that I showed you earlier, and let the fire within burn so we can change our planet. Higher Learning says, wow, very interesting. Never knew anything about Year of the Horse. Sam, what is that? Sam. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I didn't either. That's why I have so many people sending me things all the time. And Robert Young says, love without judgment. Make sure you grow from the experience. Absolutely. I watched my love partner suffer for a long time, and I was so judgmental about, oh, why didn't he do this? Why didn't he do that? Oh, he's so stubborn. Oh, he's so blah, 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 blah. And finally, Spirit, and not finally, but gradually, Spirit kept saying, you're being too judgmental. This is all a lesson for you to grow from. Oh, okay. Then I started really seeing his assignment to teach me about suffering, why people suffer, why they suffer, to teach lessons about change, not changing, not being able to make changes in your life. There's a saying that I love. It says, the mind works like a parachute. If you don't open your mind, it doesn't work. So that's one of my favorite sayings now. And then Higher Learning says, I thought the exact same thing about Reverend Jackson. His Black excellence continues. His passing is still teaching us. Absolutely. More than anything, his suffering is teaching me how at the end, his suffering, just like my friend, he had a lesson to teach us. And when I look at volunteered to suffer with their feet and their body to bring a message of change, mindfulness, breath work, peace, whereas Jesse's suffering came about from life choices, in my opinion, and to teach us something about life choices, because all those things that we suffer from start where? In the mind. If you don't open the mind, it doesn't work. And I think we saw in Jesse Jackson a man who was going to stay the same, because that's the lesson we needed to learn. So great, he was needed for that period of time where there was so much ignorance and hate in this country, from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and Jesse and Martin Luther King showed up, Al Sharpton. Now we move on. We move on now. That's what we're saying here. The Chinese New Year is telling us to move on. So we have Robert Young saying spiritual synchronicity. Yes, that is what we're looking at with Jesse passing on the Chinese New Year, where we are meant to make major changes in our life, realizing he did not make any major changes in his life that I saw. I don't know about you, all you Chicago. Did he make any major changes? In fact, someone told me the PUSH organization was actually started by the Black Panther Party. And so he just came in and took over. The Black Panther Party started a program, and then Jesse Jackson took over with PUSH in Chicago. Lots of history in that organization in Chicago. But spiritual synchronicity, that's what we're looking at. All these things are happening in the last 2 days, from the monks making it back to Fort Worth, being celebrated, being honored, just people from all over the world, just loving their message of peace with mindfulness, breath work, and not reacting to all this political messages and conflict and war and war and war. The Vietnam War kept coming up because the Netflix documentary about the Vietnam War was so informative about the patriarchal minds that put us in that war. All for what? Profit, money. It's all about. So when we are constantly paying attention to politics and all the corruption going on with Epstein and all this sickness, we are depleting our power. Knowing thyself is not about giving in to all the political rhetoric and the political challenges and the political conversations. I was in that for a while, and I realized it's just not profiting me any to even deal with that. So I kind of ignore the Trump administration and all these politics. because it's all a big show. The people who are involved in these Epstein files have, the reason we're not seeing any changes is what? Money, 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 money. It's all a big game. And as the comedian used to say, and we're not part of this. It's all a big show. We're not part of it. So the monks have brought us the message for this year. This is what we need to focus on. And Jesse is affirming it with his departure and passing the baton, the torch on to this new generation. The lead monk is only 44 years old, so he's my son's age. And the monk who followed him in the march, the really dark skinned one, who I kept thinking he had to have some black seeds planted in him or his family somewhere, because he's just so dark and handsome and cute, from Vietnam, both from Vietnam. The war that took over 53,000 lives from America. And now the universe put them on our soil to show us how to have peace. Ah, I love it, love it, love it. Such a dynamic message, conscious synchronicity about where we are in America, this cultural shock that we're having with Vietnamese monks marching for over 2,000 miles, suffering in their feet, their body, and all that, just to say, let's breathe, people, and let's stop reacting to all the monkey mind and all that. So here's, in case you missed some of the march, here's a little clip from Panakara, the head monk, who brought the message of mindfulness, breathing, which we did not get in the church. This is why Jesse's era is done, over. I thought about how many times did I go to church and people talked about breathing and mindfulness. But that's what we need, folks, right now. We don't need to be reacting to everything that goes on in the Trump administration. We don't need to be reacting to the Epstein, whatever. Those people are in the system. And guess what? It's going to collapse when the collective energy focuses on knowing thyself, meditating, and being mindful. Here is my brother, Panakara, to give us the message that we need to carry forward the whole year if we want to see the universe help us get out of the mess that this country and this world is in, with the pedophiles and all the other corrupt individuals. So let's listen to this brief interview of who this Buddhist monk is, why he came, what he came to give us. The
monks have reached Washington, D.C., concluding a 15-week walk that began in Texas with a simple message: peace. The trek began October 26th and covered about 2,300 miles. Earlier today, I spoke with Venerable Bhikkhu Panyakara, who led the walk alongside his rescue dog, Aloka. Here's some of our conversation. When you see the crowds waiting to see you walk by, you're obviously meditating and you're focused on the walk. What does that, how do you react to seeing all those people there?
Well, the first crowd was in Mississippi, Georgia. A lot of people. That is overwhelmed. And that is when I cry. It touched my heart. That I never expected that much of people coming out for this mission. But so many people coming out to greet us and to wait for us hours. And seeing that, it just really touched my heart. And then it tells me that I have to choose the right path and the right thing to do to support the people. And of course, seeing so much people coming out also make me sad, because without suffering, they wouldn't come out, right? Seeing so much people coming out means we are suffer a lot, deeply. And that also make me sad as well.
Since you've begun this journey, there have been so many examples of violence, of disunity, of a lack of harmony. Certainly in this country, and around the world. I don't know to what extent you're aware of all of it as you continue the journey, but it's got to make that message hard to resonate with some people when they see all the suffering and the trouble that we face.
There are always, different people out there. And my goal, my message, just focus on what we are doing. Raise the awareness of peace is the only way that we want to do. And regardless of people, how people receiving it, right? Just on our journey along, there are haters, there are people shout, and there are people curse at us as well and protest everything we have. But those will not bother us because our goal is to bring the awareness of peace to all people. And so we just focus in that, just continue with that message, continue with that goal, and then follow it. Do not let anything else out there to bother us. Peace with a condition that is not peace will not last. So in any condition, if we be able to stay calm and cool and patient, that is when peace begins. That is a real peace.
Can peace be achieved in such a broken world?
It is possible. Like these days, from Texas to here, I always say that peace has begun, has bloomed, because everywhere we go now, people just lining up on the street and gathering to support this mission and to walk with us in spirit. Millions of people now, not just 1,000 or 100,000, millions and millions of people joining this, and they actually practice that. Just the message that
I want to bring your attention for a moment to the garments on his shoulder and how he picked up medals from every government as he walked. And I started becoming very curious about that. Why do they wear these garments on their shoulder? They wear these robes on their shoulder, but as they walk, they added government medals on them. So I want to just remind us of the synchronicity and the spirituality of this walk for peace in this monk, in that many people see him as the Prince of Peace. The Prince of Peace is spoken of in the book of Isaiah. And in the Prince of Peace, it says that the government would be on his shoulders in Isaiah. So this is another sign to me of the powerful divine assignment this man has as the Prince of Peace. We can look at him as the Prince of Peace with the government on his shoulders. And if you are one who studies the Bible, you know what that means. This is not some simple message. And they wear their garments on their shoulders as a sign of respect, practicality, readiness for work or action. Some traditions interpret the exposed shoulder as symbolizing readiness for action of work and authority. So it's no accident, another synchronicity that the timing is right for Jesse to leave and for the entrance of the Prince of Peace in the year of 2020.
I share within every talk. Today is going to be my peaceful day. Just write that down on the piece of paper and a pen with the pen.
Today is going to be my peaceful day.
Yes, in the morning when we wake up, just get a paper and a pen, write down. Today is going to be my peaceful day. Be mindful with it throughout our day. Do one thing at a time. Do not multitask. And be mindful with it. Do everything within that day to make your day peaceful. And of course, when we react to anything that is coming to us, we ruin our day. Right? With that message along, if all the people in this world are doing together and saying that together to spread that to the universe, this world definitely will change, because there will be no hate, no anger, no delusion, no greedy, no nothing. Just peace, message, compassion, and loving kindness. I truly believe this world will be changed by the power of all people together.
Would you ever take this walk again?
People ask me a lot about this too. Yesterday as well, that I say I don't know. After finish this journey in DC, then we still have a lot of things to handle, to take care of. But if we have another chance, of course we would, because it definitely, obviously, it brought a lot of joy to the people and support them and help them in some ways. So it is benefits to many people. And if we do have a chance, we definitely will.
Well, this is the look also for many Black men, bald heads. Both my sons refuse to wear their nappy hair, so they wear bald heads. How many Black men do you know who keep their hair clean, their head clean without hair? I'm saying spirituality is very present today in, especially in the Black community in so many different ways. So Jesse Jackson, we salute you. Goodbye. Thank you for all your work you've done. It's a new day. It's a new year, Chinese New Year. Our Chinese brothers are here as monks to remind us it's time to go within and know yourself. Go within in meditation. Take time every morning to write down, today is going to be my peaceful day. Now, I tried this with my grandchildren, 9 and 11-year-old Jonah and Jasmine. I was shocked that the first time I tried it, they actually took a napkin off the table and wrote down, today is going to be my peaceful day. And I'm like, whoa, they're taking this to the next level. Both of them wrote it down, and my granddaughter criticized their brother. Well, you didn't spell that right. So now every morning we have a list on the wall of, that's one of the chores. Today is going to be my peaceful day. And the other day, my grandson, I asked him to do something, and he said, "Now that would ruin my peaceful day." I said, "Oh my goodness." I'm finding myself just being quiet now with him. My friend, let's see, Zelda knows him well. She met him. This unusual, this rainbow child. He's very unique, and now it's in their minds now. They know every day that we're working on not reacting to things in our life that upset us. They're pausing to think about, this is a peaceful day. I'm not going to react. The collective energy of the whole planet can bring about an end to war if we all practice that. This is what the monk has been teaching for the last 2,000 miles. That's what I'm promoting on my Facebook page. On my Facebook page, I actually have a picture of the monk that someone took that had such an amazing aura that I had to put it on my cover page. In fact, both my Facebook pages have the monk's face on them now, because this has just been such a powerful message for me as a Bible student. And here is the aura that was captured on this man with his governments on his shoulder. Prince of Peace, bringing us the new spirituality message. And Jesse has just affirmed it by saying, adios. I've done my job. Good work, Jesse. We love you. Al Sharpton, you need to just sit down, because nobody's listening to Al anymore. So this is what we are challenged to do now. Make changes in our daily practice every morning. Today is going to be my peaceful day. Write it down. Let the universe know I am working on a peaceful day all day today. I'm not going to be thrown about. And he said, you're the only one can mess up your peaceful day, because you're the only one who will mess it up by the way you react to every challenge that comes to you. And this is the man who I'm putting up as for the season. Now, we don't know what could go wrong with him or whatever. You know, he says he's not perfect, but he sure is bringing the message for this year to start the year off. Make every day your peaceful day. I think we have one more. Let's see what it says. War profits the USA. This is why we don't need to be distracted from the war games that are being played. They've been doing this for so long. The war machine, the war industrial complex, and the patriarchal maniacs, I call them, been doing it for so long. The only way that it's going to change is if we as a collective decide that we're going to change the way we react to everything in our life with more peace and calm and wisdom, loving kindness, compassion, and peace. Those are the things that we need to think about. These are the emotions we want to bring forward every day when we have a challenge. Loving kindness, compassion, and I had a big lesson of that with my love companion for 5 years, because I went from judgment, criticism to the last year of his life, total loving compassion, loving kindness, compassion, and peace with him. And so I hope that you, from this day on, being in the Chinese New Year, are make a vow to let go. The garments that those monks wear are also a vow that they make to let go of materialism. And I know that's hard for some of us, but try and live a more simple life this year and let go of the need to buy everything that comes across Facebook ads. I know it's really challenging. They put up ads every time I open Facebook. There's ads galore. But our challenge this year is to let go of materialism, let go of the need to have things, and more things, and just meditate all day long. The walk for peace was a walking meditation. Every step was a mindfulness act to not think about the pain in the feet, not think about the pain in the back. Just keep walking, because our mission is greater than the pain we're feeling. And that takes time, but it can be done. It can be done. I believe it can be done. And let's see, we have another. Zelda says, I love his grandpa wisdom. He does have grandpa wisdom, I'm telling you. Every day I am so blessed to be challenged by my grandchildren. Even this morning, there was a statement made that something about old people who live to be an old age. Dying of old age. And I said, well, my dad died of old age at 95. You don't really die of old age at 70. He said, yeah, you do. You die of old age. You can die of old age at 74. And you know what I said to him? You're right. You're right. Then normally I would be debating this 9-year-old who thinks he knows everything. But these days, I'm keeping my peace. I'm keeping my peace. And I have to demonstrate first the peace that I have and not reacting to every little thing that I don't agree with or doesn't meet my expectations. Stop. I have to stop that now, because I'm representing for these family members the peace that I want them to practice as well. So thank you all for joining me this evening. I hope this has been helpful and a good reminder that these elder people who leave us, the seniors who leave us, are now with the ancestors. Jesse's going to help us bring forth more peace on the planet, because he's now completed his assignment. He's on a whole different assignment now to help us down here, the human beings on this earth, walking in a way that's mindful and not just religious. Mindful meditation all day. Meditation is all day, because the minute you are hit with a challenge or an event or a circumstance that disrupts your peace, what are you going to do? Curse someone out? We can't do that anymore, because we're working with the universe. We're working with the universe by making choices to respond with loving kindness, compassion, and peace. It's just that simple. Really is simple. So let's work on it. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. Let's work on it. So I'll be back on Friday, health and well-being with Viata right here. And my joint rolling is now meditation. My mind is now not about playing music with my joint rolling, but explaining to all of you who join me how joint rolling is meditation. Just like the monks who were walking and every step was meditation, we now do joint rolling as meditation, which is very healing, strengthening and powerful to change this world from the warmongering to peaceful, loving, compassion, kindness, and peace. So everybody have a great evening, and we'll see you on Friday. Shalom. All my yogi friends, Satnam, Namaste. Aho to my native brothers and sisters. Ashe, Ashe O to all my conscious, awakened African Americans. And Ashe, Ashe to all of my synchronistic human family. Thank you all for helping me evolve. That's what we're here to do. We're here to evolve. Let's do it. Let's do it. We can do it. Shalom.